to an Oakland funeral home where they viewed her son's body.
I raised my children to love people. I raised them to mingle in American society, but American society didn't want them.
She hurt deeply, very deeply. It was like, she lost George even before he was killed.
They couldn't let him live. Wouldn't be any way possible for them to let him live. He's a black man.
And she cried, and she talked to George's dead body, and she said, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you did not die in vain, that you did mean something to me, your mother, and to the community.
After that, after August 21st, the prison movement lost its glamour. It lost its focomotor, as George would put it. It lost its focus, its superstar. But it also lost its idealism and its romance, because there was nothing idealistic or romantic about this. This was just plain murder and brutality. And it was misguided. The motivation may have been good. I want to get out. I want to lead the revolution. I want to free my people. This is for the greater good. But it turned out to be just a bloodbath in which a lot of people were hurt.
I'm a very simple person at heart. Perfect love, perfect hate, that's the insides of me.
The days following August 21st were filled with more outrage, bloodshed, and overwhelming sadness. The funerals for the San Quentin Guards were attended by hundreds of law enforcement officials, as well as family and friends. It was a painful and bewildering time for everyone.
I didn't think Mom was going to be able to hold up, to be honest. It was very hard on her, very difficult. I think we were all in a state of shock. We couldn't cry, we were almost zombie-like. And then as the days went on and we learned of how it happened, it was like, oh my God, it's still in all of our hearts. It's a wound that has never been healed.
The family of Paul Krasnius said their last goodbyes at Mount Olivet Cemetery in San Rafael. Not far away, protesters gathered outside the gates of San Quentin. Hundreds demonstrated against what they believed was an ongoing reign of terror inside the prison.
There are 26 people locked up, and they are all hurt, and they will not give them medical attention.
Gracious physical beatings by prison guards with blackjacks, clubs, and guns.
And as a person who totally is against bloodshed,
Willie Brown was a state assemblyman at that time.
I would encourage you not to get any of us killed, including yourself.
We went out there for the express purpose of trying to make sure that the system didn't come unravel and people began to needlessly lose their lives.
The atmosphere was tense, suspicious.
We couldn't even bury our dead. These people were out there protesting, getting us away from the funerals, returning to the prison, putting on our riot gear and protecting the prison.
San Quentin officials were concerned about the potential for violence.
We had a number of officers with shotguns in a garage near the gate, and that was the first line of defense, because the second line of defense was submachine guns up closer to the wall. And if these kids had actually broken through, it would have been a tragedy.
So we got some of the damnedest people you've ever seen in your life working in corrections, and they got plenty of...
According to Willie Brown, it was Ray Precunier, director of the California Department of Corrections, who allowed leaders from the black community to go inside San Quentin and inspect it.
What we found, frankly, was what Precunier and his people had said, that yes, there was a lockdown, yes, there had been, incidents, but no, there was not this reign of terror.
But the anger could not be contained. Under heavy security on the morning of August 26, the Soledad brothers were driven to the courthouse in San Francisco.
The courtroom at San Francisco was tight. Authorities feel violence has a way of following the Soledad brothers.
The hearing for John Clouchet and Fleta Drumgo became bitter and erupted into a bloody fight. As bailiffs tried to remove Clouchet's mother for creating a disturbance, a scuffle broke out when two black men interceded on her behalf. Members of San Francisco's tactical squad rushed into the courtroom to restore order.
The authorities cleared the courtroom, called an hour's recess, and began reinforcing security. And this is Tom Snyder, NBC News.
2 days later, on the morning of August 28th, bombs went off at state buildings in San Mateo, Sacramento, and San Francisco's Ferry Building, which housed satellite offices of the California prison system. No one was injured. A member of the terrorist group, the Weathermen, claimed responsibility for one of the explosions. A note sent to a local newspaper called the bombings an outraged response to the assassination of George Jackson. The 28th was also the day of Jackson's funeral.
This system, called American justice, murdered George Jackson.
The service for George Jackson was a full-blown revolutionary memorial conducted by the Black Panthers. Jackson was a field marshal in the party. The funeral was conducted at the St. Augustine Episcopal Church in Oakland, the same church which held services for his brother Jonathan. Approximately 2,000 people came to pay their respects to the Soledad brothers. Panther leaders Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton delivered eulogies.
And we will raise our children to be like George Jackson, to live like George Jackson, and to fight for freedom as George Jackson fought for freedom.
The Jackson family sat in the front row, tears running down the face of Lester, George's father.
I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live.
George Jackson's funeral was the prelude to yet another death. The next night, at around 9:30 p.m., gunmen entered San Francisco's Ingleside police station. A 12-gauge shotgun was fired, hitting Sergeant John Young in the chest, killing him. A letter was sent to local papers declaring the Ingleside attack revolutionary violence for Comrade Jackson's political assassination.
I know they will not be satisfied until they've pushed me out of this existence altogether.
The overwhelming anger and sadness which occupied the days following August 21st now turned to endless questions, accusations, and conspiracy theories. Many were convinced George Jackson had been murdered.
George Jackson, field marshal for the Black Panther Party, a soldier in the People's Army, gave his life in an attempt to free political prisoners.
Warden Lewis S. Nelson and Associate Warden James W.L. Park, through their agents, did, on August 21st, 1971, killed one George Jackson.
I believe they killed him and threw him in the yard.
Richard Nelson has always dismissed the notion that there was a prison or guard conspiracy to kill George Jackson at San Quentin.
Well, it's preposterous. It really is. There's nobody would even consider that or think of it because it's futile. There's no way you could get it done without getting a death sentence yourself.
We are satisfied now that it was brought in underneath a wig, and since we found the wig this morning.
There was also the story of the wig.
It is an honest-to-God bona fide wig.
Prison authorities believed that Jackson was wearing this afro wig under which the gun was hidden. The San Francisco Chronicle conducted a reenactment. Attempts to hide the gun failed, and when the model walked, the gun wobbled dangerously. The distance Jackson had to walk from the visiting area to the adjustment center was approximately 50 yards.
You know, they make us go through our hair, all up on the lift, your scrotum all up, and it just sounded strange to me that, you understand what I'm saying? How in the hell would he have a gun getting back to AC, and especially with the way they treated us?
There was also the appearance of the so-called pants pocket letter. The letter was an exchange between George Jackson and his friend, ex-convict James Carr, outlining preparations for Jackson's prison breakout. The letter raised more questions. Did the two men plan an escape for August 21st? Or would Jackson make an attempt 2 days later at the opening of the Soledad brothers' trial?